The alien princess stopped when she saw me. Only later did I discover the reason Kale had never imagined a world like Urindor. From the moment his shuttle pierced the atmosphere and he saw the glowing cities stretching like veins across the planet's surface, he felt both awe and unease. Urindor was not a place for ordinary humans. It was a realm of whispered legends, of kings and queens whose power could bend minds and hearts alike. Yet here he was, a recruit sent to serve as a mediator, caught in a game he barely understood. The landing platform was surrounded by towering spires, their surfaces shimmering with a faint, living light. The air carried a strange scent, metallic, floral, and something else Kale could not name. He tightened his uniform and stepped forward, aware that the eyes of the court would soon fall upon him. It was in that first step into the palace that he saw her. Princess Lysera stood at the edge of a grand hall, tall and impossibly graceful. Her skin shimmered faintly, like moonlight caught on water, and her eyes were the color of distant storms. She wore a robe of deep violet that seemed to flow and ripple as if alive, and her hair, black as night, fell in waves that framed a face both fierce and gentle at once. Kale felt his chest tighten. He had expected royalty, of course, but not her. There was something magnetic about Lysera, a presence that made the air hum with tension. Then, as he approached, she stopped. Mid-step, her head tilted and her wide eyes fixed on him. It was a moment that lasted an eternity. The guards around her seemed to fade from his vision. All he could see was her, frozen in recognition or shock. Kale blinked. He had never seen anyone react to him like this. "Princess," he ventured cautiously. Lysera's lips parted, but no sound came. Her gaze flickered, almost fearful, almost longing. She stepped back slightly, then straightened as if gathering herself, and nodded to her attendants. "Bring him to the hall," she said, her voice calm yet carrying an undercurrent of tension. Kale followed, but his mind raced. Why had she stopped? Why had her eyes lingered on him with that strange intensity? The hall was enormous, carved from pale stone that glimmered faintly under the light of suspended crystals. The ceiling soared above, revealing intricate murals of Urindor's history, wars, alliances, and legendary heroes whose eyes seemed to follow him as he walked. Kale could feel the weight of centuries pressing down on him. A court official led him to a platform at the center, where Lysera now stood, regal and untouchable. The courtiers watched silently, a sea of curious and wary faces. Kale's heart pounded. He was trained to maintain composure, but the atmosphere here was unlike anything he had ever faced. Lysera's eyes met his again, briefly, and Kale noticed something strange. A faint glow pulsed beneath the surface of his wrist, a mark he had borne since birth, one he had always thought meaningless. But now it throbbed with warmth as if reacting to her presence. The official cleared his throat. "Kale of Earth, you are here as a representative of the interstellar peacekeeping force. You will observe and report, and your loyalty to the council is expected." Kale bowed. "I understand, my lord and my lady," he added carefully, glancing toward Lysera. Her gaze softened for a moment, almost imperceptibly, and then she looked away, addressing the room. "Let the preparations begin. There is much to be done." As Kale was escorted from the hall to his quarters, he could not shake the memory of her eyes. There was something familiar there, though he had never met her before. His dreams had been haunted by strange visions, visions of a woman standing alone under a sky of swirling stars, calling his name without words. Could it have been her? That night, Kale lay in the sparsely furnished room, staring at the ceiling. The mark on his wrist continued to pulse, faint but insistent. He traced it with his fingers, feeling a tingle run through his arm. Somewhere deep within, he sensed that this mark was not merely a birthmark, but a signal, a key to something he could not yet understand. In his dreams, the visions returned. The same storm-colored eyes stared at him from darkness. A voice whispered, not aloud, but in his mind, "Do not come too close, yet you must." He awoke with a start, the early light of Urindor streaming through the crystal windows. The palace was alive with motion. Courtiers in flowing garments moved like shadows, servants carried trays of glowing fruit, and guards patrolled silently, their eyes unnervingly sharp. Kale dressed quickly and made his way to the hall. Lysera was already there, waiting. She turned slightly as he entered, her posture perfect, yet something in her stance betrayed a subtle tension. Kale felt drawn toward her as if an invisible thread connected them. "Kale," she said softly, I have questions for you." He nodded. "I will answer whatever I can, Princess." She studied him closely, her fingers brushing the edge of her robe. "Do you feel it?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "Feel what?" Cale asked, cautious. "The pull between us," she said. Her eyes flicked to his wrist, then back to his face. "It is stronger than I expected. You carry the mark. I feared it was a legend, but now I see." Cale's heart skipped a beat. "The mark, you know of it?" Lysera's gaze was intense. "More than you realize. That mark ties you to the prophecy of my line. The one who bears it, they were spoken of centuries ago. I never thought I would see them, and yet here you are." Cale struggled to process her words. Prophecy, ancient bloodlines, this was far beyond the scope of his training. And yet the pulse on his wrist seemed to quicken, in tune with the strange energy emanating from her. Before he could ask more, a sudden tremor shook the hall. The crystals lining the ceiling flickered, casting jagged shadows across the walls. Courtiers murmured in alarm. Cale grabbed Lysera's arm instinctively, and for a moment their hands touched. The pulse of his mark flared, and Lysera gasped. "The echoes are near," she whispered. "Something from the past, or perhaps something from the future." Guards hurried to secure the hall, but Cale and Lysera remained connected by that invisible thread, a current of energy running between them. Neither could fully explain it, but both felt it with undeniable clarity. They were bound by something far greater than either of them. Later, as Cale was led to his quarters, he could not shake the sense that the palace itself was alive, watching, waiting. He sat by the window and gazed at the city below. Towers of light reached into the sky like fingers grasping for the stars, and bridges of energy connected distant spires, pulsing with unseen life. He did not yet understand what Lysera had meant by the echoes, but he felt certain that his arrival had set something in motion. Something that could change the fate of Urindor, and perhaps the entire galaxy. That night, sleep came reluctantly. When he finally drifted, the dreams returned. The storm-colored eyes, the whispered warnings, the swirling stars, and always, always Lysera. She reached for him, but every time he tried to touch her, she faded into darkness, leaving him alone with the echo of her voice. "The moment has come, but beware, some truths cannot be faced without pain." Cale awoke at dawn, sweat cooling on his skin. The mark on his wrist pulsed again, softer now, but insistent, as if reminding him that destiny had chosen its path, and he was already on it. He dressed quickly and went to the hall, determined to learn more. Lysera awaited him again, regal and distant, yet there was a glimmer of something human in her eyes, fear, doubt, hope, and perhaps recognition. "Cale," she said, her voice stronger than before, "you must understand, your arrival is no coincidence. You are part of something ancient, something powerful, something dangerous." Cale swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. "Then I will face it," he said quietly, "whatever it is." Her gaze softened almost imperceptibly. "I hope you can," she whispered. And in that moment Cale felt it, an invisible thread connecting them, a pull stronger than fear, stronger than reason. He did not yet know why she had stopped when she first saw him, but he sensed that everything that had led him here, the mark, the dreams, the prophecies, was about to collide with a truth neither of them were ready to face. As he left the hall, the pulse of his mark continued to beat steadily, a reminder that the shadows of destiny were gathering. And somewhere deep within the palace, Lysera watched him go, her heart caught between duty, fear, and a longing she could not yet name. The stage was set. The prophecy had begun. The sun rose over Urindor in a cascade of violet and gold, painting the spires of the palace with light that seemed alive. Cale walked through the corridors, his boots echoing on polished stone. The palace was quiet, yet he could feel its pulse, like the heartbeat of a living being. Every step reminded him of Lysera, of her eyes, the storm-colored eyes that had stopped him the day before. He reached the garden courtyard, a place of peace within the palace walls. Moonflowers bloomed in permanent twilight, glowing faintly even under the morning sun. Crystal fountains whispered their secrets, and strange, bird-like creatures flitted among the branches. Cale leaned on the marble railing, tracing the mark on his wrist. It had calmed overnight, but he could still feel its warmth. "You feel it too, don't you?" Cale turned sharply. Lysera stepped onto the terrace, her robe flowing behind her. Her presence was magnetic, impossible to ignore. I don't understand," Cale admitted. "Feel what?" "The pull," she said softly, almost like a confession. "Between us, the moment I first saw you, I felt it, and your mark, it reacts to me." Cale swallowed. "I thought it was just a mark, something I was born with." "It is," Lysera said, her voice tinged with sadness. But not just that, your mark carries energy from the past, a past intertwined with mine. I have seen it in visions. I never thought it would appear in reality. Kale frowned, trying to make sense of her words. Visions? Lysera nodded. The court seers have long warned of one who bears the mark, someone who will awaken the echoes and perhaps even the curse that has haunted my family for generations. You are that person, Kale. Kale felt his chest tighten. I'm just a recruit. I can't. Lysera stepped closer, and the air between them seemed to hum. This is not about rank, Kale. This is about destiny, and whether you choose to accept it or not, it is already affecting you. He looked down at his wrist, tracing the faint glow of the mark. The warmth had returned, stronger now. A strange vibration coursed through his veins like a current connecting him to her. He lifted his hand slightly, and she reached out, her fingertips barely brushing his. The moment their skin touched, a wave of images flooded Kale's mind. He saw Lysera as a child wandering alone through the palace halls, crying silently under a sky of burning stars. He saw a shadowed figure, a dark echo, reaching for her with hands that burned with malice. And he saw himself, not yet born, standing in a garden, staring at her through swirling light, unable to reach her. Kale staggered back, clutching his head. What was that? Lysera's eyes were wide with concern. The echoes, you are sensitive to them. I should have warned you, but I couldn't. You would not have believed me. Kale struggled to steady his breathing. Believed you? I don't even understand what I just saw. You will, she said. In time, but first you must learn to control it. The mark is not just a symbol. It is a conduit. It connects you to me, to my ancestors, and to the curse that has shadowed my family for centuries. Kale's mind spun. Curse, ancestors, this sounds impossible. Lysera's gaze softened. And yet it is true. You are part of something older than this planet, older than any of us. The moment I saw you, I felt it, the pull of fate drawing us together. It is why I stopped. It is why I could not step forward without caution. And it is why I must teach you. Kale swallowed hard. Teach me. What do I need to know? First, Lysera said, gesturing for him to follow, you must understand the echoes. They are memories, shadows, and warnings. They are fragments of the past, showing what was, what is, and what might be. If you cannot face them, they will control you instead. Kale nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. Then I'll try. They walked together through the palace, descending into the shadowed corridors beneath the royal halls. The walls were carved with intricate runes, glowing faintly with silver light. The air was cooler here, and Kale could feel the hum of ancient power resonating through the stone. This is the Hall of Echoes, Lysera explained. Few are allowed here. The walls are alive with memory. They record the moments of my ancestors, and sometimes those moments reach forward to touch the present. Kale looked around, awestruck. Faint shapes flickered along the walls, scenes of battles, coronations, and quiet moments of grief. Each image seemed to pulse with energy, drawing him in. Step carefully, Lysera warned. The echoes do not distinguish between friend and foe. They respond to your emotions, to your fear, your hope, even your desire. Kale nodded, though he could not hide his awe. He felt a twinge of longing as he looked at her, Lysera standing beside him, her presence so powerful yet so fragile. And what happens if they overwhelm me? They will show you things you may not wish to see, she said softly. But you are stronger than you know. The mark will guide you, and I will be here to help you. Kale met her eyes, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink to the two of them. He felt an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, a mix of fear, trust, and something deeper, something that had nothing to do with duty. They approached a carved archway, and as Kale stepped through, the walls seemed to ripple like liquid. The air shimmered, and suddenly he was no longer in the palace. He stood in a forest bathed in silver light. Strange, luminous plants stretched toward a sky filled with swirling stars. The ground pulsed beneath his feet as if alive. Where are we? Kale whispered. This is the Echo Realm, Lysera said, her voice echoing strangely as if coming from everywhere at once. Here time is different. Here the echoes speak freely. Kale shivered. He felt the mark on his wrist flare, sending a jolt of energy through his arm. Images appeared in the air before him, his own memories mingled with visions of Lysera and fragments of the past he could not understand. You see, Lysera said, moving closer, your mark connects you to me and to my lineage. It allows you to witness events that shape our world. But it also carries a danger. If you lose control, the echoes can overwhelm you, twisting fear into reality. Kale swallowed, gripping his wrist. I feel it. Everything all at once. Lysera reached out, placing her hand over his. The warmth of her touch grounded him, anchoring him in the present. Breathe, Kale. Focus on me. Do not fear the visions. Let them teach you, not control you. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and slowly exhaled. The images flickered and shifted, and for the first time he felt a connection, not just to the visions, but to Lysera herself. Their energy intertwined, pulsing in rhythm. A vision sharpened. He saw a dark figure moving silently through the halls of the palace, reaching for Lysera with hands that radiated malice. He felt a surge of protectiveness. Who is that?" he demanded. "That is the shadow," Lysera said, her voice tight with tension. "It is part of the curse, part of the echoes. It knows you, Kale, and it will test you both. You must be ready to face it." Kale's heart pounded. "Then we fight it," Lysera hesitated. "Not yet. First, you must understand it. It feeds on fear, doubt, and unspoken desire. If we confront it unprepared, it could consume us, or worse, separate us forever." Kale nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "Then I will learn. I will not let it win." Lysera's gaze softened, a mixture of pride and something deeper in her eyes. "Good. You have courage, Kale. That is the first step. But remember, the echoes are not just visions. They are warnings, and they will continue to test you in ways you cannot yet imagine." The forest of light shimmered and faded, returning them to the marble corridors of the palace. Kale felt the lingering pulse of energy, the mark on his wrist warm and insistent. He had glimpsed the power he now carried and the danger it brought. "Rest tonight," Lysera said quietly. "Tomorrow we begin training. The mark will guide you, but you must also learn to guide it. Only then will you be ready to face the shadow." Kale nodded, though his mind was restless. The images, the visions, the pull between him and Lysera, it was all overwhelming, yet he could not deny a strange exhilaration. For the first time, he felt part of something larger, something that stretched across centuries, across stars. As he returned to his quarters, he caught sight of Lysera in the hallways. She paused, looking at him for a moment longer than necessary. He thought he saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, quickly masked by the calm, regal demeanor she always wore. Kale's pulse quickened. There was a connection here, undeniable and raw, yet shrouded in mystery. The echoes were only the beginning, and already he could feel that his life and the fate of Erendor would never be the same. That night, Kale dreamed again. The shadow loomed closer, whispering threats and secrets. Yet this time he felt Lysera beside him, her hand on his, anchoring him, guiding him through the darkness. He woke with a start, determination burning in his chest. The pull between them was stronger than ever. The echoes were only the beginning. And Kale knew, deep down, that the moment had come when the first real test of destiny would find them both. The Hall of Echoes was silent that morning, but Kale felt the weight of its history pressing against him like a living thing. The air shimmered faintly with the energy of past generations, and faint whispers seemed to rise from the walls, voices of kings and queens long gone, warning, guiding, or mourning. Kale traced the mark on his wrist, its pulse steady yet insistent, as if urging him forward. Lysera walked beside him, her eyes alert and her posture unwavering. She moved with a grace that made the palace itself seem to bend around her. "Today," she said, her voice low, "you will see the curse in its true form. Not just the echoes, the shadow waits, and it grows stronger with every heartbeat of doubt, every fear unspoken." Kale swallowed. He had seen glimpses of it in his dreams in the vision realm, but he did not yet understand the depth of its power. "I'm ready," he said, though his voice carried a hint of uncertainty. Lysera glanced at him, a flicker of something almost tender in her gaze. "Ready, yes, but you must remember, courage alone will not protect you. You must understand, adapt, and trust not only yourself, but also the bond between us." They descended a spiral staircase that led to a hidden chamber beneath the palace. The walls were carved with swirling patterns that seemed to shift when they weren't looking directly at them. The floor was cool beneath their feet, and the air carried a faint metallic tang, like blood long shed but never forgotten. "This chamber," Lysera explained, "was built to contain the echoes when they grew too strong. It is a nexus, a place where the past and present collide. Here the shadow can take shape, and you will see it as it truly is." Kale's pulse quickened. The stories, the warnings, they all led to this moment. He clenched his fists, feeling the warmth of his mark surge in response to Lysera's proximity. The connection between them was undeniable, a silent current of energy that neither fully understood but could not ignore. Lysera stepped forward, her hand brushing the wall, and the carvings began to glow softly. A chill ran down Kale's spine as the whispers intensified. Shapes flickered in the corners of the chamber, shadows that shifted and writhed as if alive. "Do you feel it?" Lysera asked. "The curse, it is not just a story. It is a force bound to my bloodline for centuries. Every heir has faced it, and many have failed." Kale nodded, trying to steady himself. "And if we fail?" Lysera's eyes darkened. "Then it will consume more than just us. It will reach beyond the palace, beyond this planet. That is why your presence is so significant. You are the one foretold to confront it, and perhaps to end it." The air thickened, and a shadow began to rise from the center of the chamber. It was not a simple darkness, but a form that shifted constantly. Sometimes humanoid, sometimes monstrous, sometimes an exact mirror of Lysera herself. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, and Kale felt its gaze pierce him, testing the depths of his courage. "This is it," Lysera whispered, stepping closer to him. "The shadow of the curse. It feeds on fear, and it knows everything, your doubts, your past, even the bond we share. Do not let it manipulate you. Trust yourself and trust me." Kale swallowed hard, feeling the pulse of his mark flare as the shadow advanced. It moved silently, its form folding and stretching in impossible ways. He could see fragments of the past reflected in it, images of Lysera as a child, abandoned moments, battles fought, and sorrow etched into the faces of her ancestors. "You must focus," Lysera said. She raised her hand, and a faint glow surrounded her. Energy rippled from her fingertips, brushing against Kale like a protective wave. "The shadow can be resisted. You must see it for what it is, fear made flesh. Do not deny your feelings, Kale, but do not let them control you." Kale nodded, gripping the mark on his wrist. The warmth spread through his arm, steadying him. He could feel the thread of energy connecting him to Lysera, and for the first time he understood that it was not just a bond, it was a lifeline. The shadow surged forward, and Kale felt a wave of despair wash over him. Voices whispered, mocking him, telling him he was weak, that he would fail, that Lysera would be lost forever. He stumbled backward, nearly falling, but Lysera's hand was there, steadying him. "Do not listen," she commanded. Her voice echoed through the chamber, carrying authority and power. The shadow faltered, as if struck by her words. "Focus on me, Kale. Your courage is stronger than its lies." Kale closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He let the warmth of his mark guide him, the pulse steady and insistent. The images of doubt and fear faded slightly, replaced by the memory of Lysera's eyes, the moment she had stopped when she first saw him, the recognition that had both startled and comforted him. He opened his eyes, and the shadow recoiled. It hissed, a sound that was part wind, part whispers, part something ancient and angry. Kale stepped forward, meeting its gaze, and for the first time he felt not fear but resolve. "Go back," he shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You do not control me." The shadow hesitated, then surged forward again, faster, stronger, more insistent. Kale felt the pulse of his mark flare violently, and a surge of energy shot from his wrist, colliding with the shadow. Light met darkness, and for a moment the chamber seemed to vanish, replaced by a void filled with swirling stars and fragments of memory. Lysera stepped beside him, her own energy flaring and twining with his. "Together, Kale, do not let it separate us." Their combined energy pushed the shadow back, forcing it to falter. For a brief, dazzling moment, the two of them stood united, their connection blazing with light, and the shadow shrieked in frustration. "You are stronger than I thought," Lysera whispered, a mixture of awe and relief in her voice. "The bond, it is real. It gives us power the shadow cannot comprehend." Kale's chest heaved. I can feel it too. The mark, it's not just a curse. It's a guide, a connection to you, to everything." Lysera nodded, her eyes softening. "Yes, but remember, this is only the beginning. The shadow will return, and it will be stronger. You must continue to grow, Kale. Trust yourself, trust me, and trust the bond we share." Kale looked at her, feeling a mixture of admiration, fear, and something deeper, something that reached beyond the palace, beyond the stars. "I will," he said firmly. "I will not let it win, and I will protect you." Her gaze lingered on him, and for a moment the weight of centuries seemed to lift, leaving only the two of them in the chamber. She reached out, brushing her fingers against his cheek, a touch that was gentle yet filled with unspoken power. "The curse is tied to my bloodline, Kale," she said softly. "It has haunted us for generations, but now with you here there is hope. We can face it together." Kale swallowed, feeling the warmth of her touch and the pulse of his mark in perfect harmony. Together, he repeated. The chamber fell silent again, but Kale knew the calm was temporary. The echoes had not finished and the shadow would return. Yet for the first time, he felt not dread, but determination. He understood that the bond with Lysera was not just a connection, it was a force that could shape destiny itself. As they left the chamber, Lysera glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. You have faced the first test, Kale, but there are more to come. The curse is patient and it will find ways to challenge us to exploit our fears and desires. You must be ready. Kale nodded, the mark on his wrist pulsing gently, a steady reminder of the power and responsibility he now carried. I will be ready, he said. They walked through the corridors in silence, the palace alive with faint echoes and whispers. Kale felt the pull of destiny stronger than ever. The shadow was not defeated, it was only delayed, and the deeper he and Lysera's bond grew, the more dangerous the challenge would become. That night, Kale dreamed again. The shadow appeared, more vivid than ever, whispering secrets of betrayal and loss. But this time he was not alone. Lysera was there, her hand in his, her presence steadying him against the storm. Together they faced the darkness, their bond a beacon of light in the void. He awoke with a start, heart pounding, but filled with a newfound resolve. The curse, the shadow, the echoes, they were formidable, yes. But Kale now understood that his connection with Lysera was stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. Together they could face whatever came next. The palace was quiet outside his window, but Kale knew it was only the calm before the storm. The shadow would return, and the true test of their courage, trust, and the bond between them was yet to come. And in that moment, Kale realized the truth. Destiny had brought him here not just to witness the legend of the alien princess, but to become part of it, entwined with her fate and the fate of Earendor itself. The moon hung low over Earendor, casting silver light across the spires of the palace. The city below shimmered with the faint glow of energy bridges and luminous gardens. Yet within Kale's heart there was no peace. The echoes and shadows had left their mark, stirring unease and an unfamiliar longing that he could not name. Since their encounter in the Hall of Echoes, Kale had not seen Lysera alone. The princess moved through the palace like a wraith, regal and untouchable, yet every glance she threw in his direction carried a mixture of worry and unspoken emotion. Kale knew she was struggling with more than the curse. The bond they shared had awakened feelings she could not easily control. He wandered the palace corridors that night, drawn to the garden terrace where moonflowers glowed softly under the starlight. The air smelled faintly of night-blooming blossoms and ozone, a fragrance that seemed to mirror the tension in his chest. "You're here again," Lysera's voice said softly behind him. He turned to see her stepping out from the shadows, her dark robe flowing around her like liquid night. Her eyes, storm-colored and intense, were fixed on him. "I couldn't sleep," Kale admitted. "The echoes, the shadow, it feels like it's still out there, waiting." Lysera's lips curved faintly. "It is. The shadow is patient. It will return when it senses weakness. But tonight, you are not alone." Kale felt a pulse of warmth from his mark as he stepped closer. Their eyes met, and in that moment the world seemed to shrink until only the two of them existed. "I don't understand it," he whispered. "This bond, it feels stronger every time I see you. I can feel your presence even when you're not here." Lysera's hand hovered near his, trembling slightly before she let it rest against his arm. "The bond is the mark's power. It connects us, intertwining our fates. But it also carries danger. The deeper the connection, the more the shadow will seek to exploit it." Kale swallowed, feeling both exhilaration and fear. "I don't care," he said quietly. "Even if it tries, I won't let it take you." Her gaze softened, the icy composure of the princess giving way to something tender. I fear for what may happen, Kale. The curse is old, cruel, and relentless. Even our bond might not be enough to protect us completely." "I don't need protection," he said firmly. "Not if we face it together." Lysera's eyes lingered on him, and for a long moment neither spoke. The night was alive with whispers of the past, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant hum of the city, the subtle pulse of the palace itself. It was a world where time and memory intertwined, and for Kale, the past and present seemed equally vivid in Lysera's presence. "You have grown," Lysera said finally. "Since the first day you have faced the echoes and the shadow without surrendering to fear. That courage, it is rare, Kale. It is why the bond works, why the prophecy may yet be fulfilled." Kale glanced at her, searching her eyes for any hint of doubt. Then, the prophecy isn't doomed? She shook her head, a faint smile touching her lips. Not if we stand together, but the shadow learns. It will return stronger, testing both your resolve and your heart. And there are parts of my past you have yet to see, secrets the palace has hidden and memories that the echoes keep locked away. Kale felt a shiver run through him. Show me, he said quietly. I want to understand, I want to face it, all of it with you. Lysera reached for him, her hand warm and steady. Then you must follow me, she said. They moved through hidden corridors, descending again into the palace's ancient depths. The air grew cooler, tinged with the scent of earth and stone. Here the shadows were thicker, curling along the walls like living smoke. This is where my ancestors faced the curse, Lysera explained. Every heir of my line has confronted the shadow here. Some failed, some survived only to be haunted for life, and now it tests us. Kale felt the pulse of his mark flare as they entered a chamber deep beneath the palace. The walls were etched with carvings of battles and ceremonies, of triumphs and betrayals, their details shifting faintly as if alive. At the center of the room, a dark vortex began to form, swirling like a storm of shadows and whispers. The shadow grows, Lysera said, stepping forward. It senses our bond, our resolve. It will try to separate us, to exploit fear and doubt. You must focus, Kale. Do not let it touch your heart. Kale's chest tightened, but he nodded. He reached out instinctively, letting his hand brush hers. The energy between them sparked, visible in the air as tendrils of light and shadow intertwined. The shadow surged, taking shape as a twisted reflection of Lysera herself. Its eyes glowed with the same storm-colored intensity, but there was cruelty there and mockery and the promise of despair. Kale felt a wave of cold terror, whispering that he was unworthy, that he could not protect her, that their bond was fragile. Do not listen, Lysera shouted, her voice strong and commanding. It is nothing but a lie. You are stronger than it believes, Kale. And together we are unbreakable. Kale closed his eyes, focusing on the warmth of her hand, the pulse of their connection. Memories of their earlier visions, of her recognition, of the quiet moments in the garden, surged through him. He felt the strength of their bond, the mark's power coursing through him. He opened his eyes. I am not afraid, he said firmly, and I will not let you face this alone. Light burst from his mark, radiating outward, mixing with Lysera's energy. The shadow shrieked and recoiled, but it did not vanish. Instead, it shifted, morphing into darker, more intricate forms, feeding on doubt and hesitation. Lysera's eyes met his, and in that instant, Kale understood something he had not realized before. The shadow's power was amplified by fear, yes, but also by unspoken longing, by hesitation, by the things they kept from themselves. Their connection was both a shield and a weapon, but it was also a vulnerability. He stepped closer to Lysera, holding her hand firmly. We face it together, he said. Yes, she whispered, a tremor in her voice. Together. The shadow surged again, faster, more aggressive, striking at their connection. Kale felt the echoes of their pasts, the pain of their ancestors, the sorrow of generations, all pressing in. For a moment he faltered. Doubt crept in, fear gnawed at his resolve. Lysera tightened her grip, her eyes locking with his. Do not let it win, Kale. Feel it, embrace it, and then let it go. Our bond is stronger than any curse. With a deep breath, Kale focused. He felt the pulse of the mark, the energy flowing between them, steady and unyielding. He allowed the fear to exist, acknowledged it, but did not surrender to it. The shadow recoiled again, its form flickering like mist. Together, Kale and Lysera pushed forward, their combined energy blazing through the chamber. The shadow wailed, twisting and contorting, then shattered into fragments that dissolved into the air. Silence fell, broken only by their ragged breathing. Lysera's hand remained in his, warm and steady. You have done well, Kale, she said softly, but the shadow is patient. It will return, stronger, cunning. It will exploit every weakness we have. Kale nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Then we face it together always. Lysera looked at him, her eyes lingering. The bond, it is more than just power, she whispered. It is connection, understanding, and perhaps something neither of us fully knows yet. Kale felt the pulse of the mark once more, a gentle reminder of their connection. Then we will learn it, he said, together. For the first time, they walked out of the chamber not in fear, but in quiet resolve. The palace above was still, the city lights shimmering in the distance. Yet Kale knew the shadow would return. The curse was not defeated. The echoes of the past and the weight of destiny would continue to test them, But for now, he had Lysera by his side, and that, he realized, was a power stronger than any darkness. As they reached the garden terrace, Lysera paused, looking at the sky. "There are things I have not told you," she said softly. "Secrets about my family, the prophecy, and the full nature of the curse. Soon you must see them, and when that happens, everything will change." Kale felt a thrill of anticipation and fear. "I will be ready," he said quietly, "for everything." Lysera's eyes softened, and she offered him a small, fleeting smile. "I hope so, Kale, for both our sakes." The night was alive with stars, the city glowing below, and the palace pulsing with unseen energy. Kale traced his mark once more, feeling its warmth, its power, its connection to Lysera. He knew the path ahead would be difficult, filled with shadows, trials, and revelations. Yet for the first time he felt hope. The bond they shared was not just destiny, it was a choice, a force they could wield together, and whatever darkness awaited, they would face it side by side. And somewhere in the depths of the palace, the echoes stirred, whispering of trials yet to come, of the shadow's return, and of the bond that could either save or shatter them both. The palace of Urindor was quiet, but Kale could not find peace. Even the gentle glow of moonlight on the marble spires felt distant and unreal. Since the encounter in the Hall of Echoes, he had sensed a tension in the palace, a subtle electric pull in the air, as though the walls themselves were alive and watching him. Kale wandered into the garden courtyard. Moonflowers glimmered softly, their petals reflecting the starlight. Crystal fountains whispered quietly as water flowed over smooth stones. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of night-blooming flowers. He felt the pulse of the mark on his wrist. It throbbed gently, almost as if it were breathing, reminding him of Lysera. "You're here again," a voice said, soft and deliberate. Kale turned and saw Lysera stepping from the shadows. Her dark robe shimmered like liquid night, and the light from the moon caught in her storm-colored eyes. Even in stillness, she radiated power and grace. "I couldn't sleep," Kale said honestly. "The echoes, the shadow, it feels like it's waiting, watching. I need to understand it." Lysera approached, her gaze focused on him. "It is waiting, the shadow is patient, it learns, adapts, and it will use every weakness against us. But tonight, Kale, you are not alone." Kale felt a strange warmth, not from the mark alone, but from her presence. He took a step closer, the pull between them undeniable. "I don't understand it," he whispered. "This bond, it grows stronger. I can feel you even when you are not here." Lysera's hand hovered near his. For a moment she seemed unsure, almost hesitant, before letting her fingers brush his arm. The warmth of her touch traveled through him, and he felt the mark pulse stronger. "The bond is tied to the mark," Lysera said softly. "It connects us, entwining our fates. But it carries danger as well. The deeper it grows, the more the shadow will seek to exploit it." Kale's chest tightened. "Then I'll face it," he said quietly. "Even if it tries to hurt us, I won't let it separate us." Her eyes softened, the composure of a princess giving way to something fragile, almost human. I fear for what may happen. The curse is relentless, older than our memories. Even the bond we share may not be enough to protect us." Kale stepped closer. "Then we face it together," he said, the certainty in his voice surprising even him. For a moment the night held its breath. The palace seemed still, the city lights below glimmering softly, reflecting in the silver glow of the moonflowers. Kale and Lysera stood close, bound by something neither fully understood, a force both terrifying and beautiful. "You have grown, Kale," Lysera said finally. "Since your arrival, you have faced the echoes and the shadow without surrendering to fear. That courage, it is rare. It is why the bond works, why the prophecy may yet be fulfilled." Kale looked at her, searching her eyes. "Then the prophecy isn't doomed?" She shook her head, faintly smiling. "Not if we stand together, but the shadow will return, stronger. It will test our resolve, our hearts, and it will exploit every secret, every fear, every unspoken desire." Kale swallowed hard. "Then I want to see it. I want to understand it all with you." Lysera's hand remained on his. "Then you must follow me," she said. Together they moved through hidden corridors, descending into the ancient depths beneath the palace. The air grew cooler, heavier, tinged with the scent of earth and stone. Shadows shifted along the walls, curling like living smoke. "This is where my ancestors faced the curse," Lysera said. "Every heir of my line has confronted the shadow here. Some survived, some did not, and now it tests us." Kale felt the pulse of his mark flare as they entered a wide chamber beneath the palace. The walls were etched with carvings depicting battles, ceremonies, and moments of grief. The carvings seemed to shift, alive, as if they remembered every touch of history. At the center of the room, a swirling darkness began to rise, curling and stretching into a storm of shadows. "The shadow grows," Lysera said, stepping forward. "It senses our bond. It will try to divide us, to twist our fears and doubts against us. You must focus, Kale." "Trust yourself and trust me." Kale nodded, though his chest ached with anticipation and fear. He felt Lysera's hand brush against his again, grounding him. Together they stepped forward. The shadow surged. Its form shifted, taking the shape of a twisted version of Lysera. Its storm-colored eyes glowed with cruelty and mockery. Kale felt a wave of fear rise inside him, whispering that he was unworthy, that he could not protect her, that their bond was fragile. "Do not listen," Lysera shouted. "It is only a lie." "You are stronger than it believes, Kale. Together we are unbreakable." Kale closed his eyes and focused. The warmth of her hand, the pulse of their connection, the memory of her recognition from their first meeting, all of it flowed through him. He let the fear exist, acknowledged it, and then let it go. When he opened his eyes, the shadow hesitated. Kale lifted his wrist, feeling the mark surge with energy. Light burst forth, intertwining with Lysera's energy. The shadow recoiled, shrieking, twisting, and writhing. "This is only the beginning," Lysera said, her voice low but steady. "It will return, and each time it will test us more." Kale nodded, determination settling in his chest. "Then we will be ready, together." Lysera looked at him, her gaze lingering. "The bond, it is more than power," she whispered. "It is understanding, connection, and perhaps something neither of us fully understands yet." Kale felt the warmth of the mark, the pulse of energy between them. "Then we will learn it, together." They walked out of the chamber, their hands brushing, a silent promise between them. The palace above was calm, but Kale knew it was only temporary. The shadow would return, and the trials were far from over. The garden terrace felt alive under the moonlight. Lysera paused, gazing at the stars. "There are things I have not told you, Kale," she said softly. "Secrets about my family, the prophecy, and the full nature of the curse. Soon you will see them, and when that happens, everything will change." Kale felt a thrill of anticipation and fear. "I will be ready," he said, "for everything." Lysera's lips curved in a small, fleeting smile. "I hope so, Kale, for both our sakes." The night was still, but the pulse of destiny ran through the palace. Kale felt the mark thrum with warmth, reminding him of the bond they shared. Whatever darkness lay ahead, he knew now that he and Lysera were stronger together. And somewhere deep within the palace, the echoes stirred once more, whispering of trials yet to come, of the shadow's inevitable return, and of a bond that could either save them or destroy them. Kale stood on the terrace, looking out over the glowing city. For the first time since he had arrived on Erendor, he felt hope. The bond he shared with Lysera was more than fate. It was choice, power, and a force that neither shadow nor curse could easily undo. The wind brushed against his face, carrying the faint scent of moonflowers, and he smiled. Whatever came next, he would not face it alone. The shadow would return. The curse would test them. But together, Kale and Lysera were ready to face the abyss. And the night whispered promises of what was to come. As stars burned bright above Erendor, witnesses to a bond that would shape the destiny of worlds.